Okay, is everyone ready? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole Working Session meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. The time is 9 a.m. We have a full agenda today. We'll turn the agenda items over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. First item on the agenda is Mr. Matt Reed, our City Engineer of Record from SEH. And the number one item is approve the resolution to award the bid for the 18th Street North culvert.
Morning, Matt.
Morning. So yes, as Britt indicated, the first item here is we did get bids last week for the 18th Street North culvert replacement project. You can see in the attached bid tabulation, it did come in a little bit over our estimate. Not sure why, anything in particular. It was a little bit surprising. The contractor that is doing the work for MnDOT did not bid the project. So that's what we were really kind of hoping was going to happen. But they did not. So regardless, we did get some bids. And the low bid was Utility Systems of America in the amount of $128,357.50. I know the project, we talked about it last meeting, it does need to be done. So I guess I'll answer any questions you guys might have and leave that decision up to you.
Okay, as we move forward here, it'll go around the room. If we don't do the project and we don't have the money for it or whatever, we may have to temporarily close that entrance because another individual came over there unknown about that, going to the restaurant for dinner, busted the oil pan on the bottom of the car. So it is really bad, and you have to go very slow. So it either has to be done. I think we would have to discuss closing that entrance for until it does get done. So that being said, we'll move over to Councilor Beyondich.
What was your estimated cost from before? Is it in?
The engineer's estimate was $95,250. And as I'm looking at the biggest difference in there, it looks like, is the cost of the pipe, which is, I guess, the project. So.
Councilor Beyondich?
And with that being said, Sherry, where would the extra dollars come from to continue the project?
So this is part of, I know we discussed this a while back. Help me out here, Matt.
So this project is, it's not part of the, it isn't currently.
No.
This, I'm not sure, I don't remember what the plan was for covering the cost of this one, but this one was tag teamed on. It was supposed to be tag teamed on with MnDOT redoing their culverts in that same intersection. So the city, we talked about maybe having MnDOT add it to their contract, and there's some complications and costs associated with that. So everybody agreed at the time, and it was the right decision. Just city to handle theirs, MnDOT would handle theirs. So.
Can't really touch the MSA either.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. And that's all city property down there. There's no assessment, correct?
It is, correct.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid as suggested by you so we can get this project done.
Motion by Councilor Johnson to accept the bid of $128,357 for the culvert repair on 18th Street North from Utility Systems Incorporated. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
So can you clarify where that would be taken from to finish this project?
Well, like I mentioned to you yesterday afternoon, we did an overlay last year in 2024. We had gotten approval from the council to withdraw $400,000 from investments, which we did not because March they matured, our CDs did, and they were doing so well that we reinvested. So I would probably recommend to the council that we take that money's out of there if we don't have enough right now in the general fund to do it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So Sherry, what is the fund that we would be allocating this amount?
It would be from instead of, we did not take the 400,000 from our investments accounts where we have CD investments.
Yep, you had sent the
Yeah, we
cash
never did
investments.
that. Yeah.
But which fund is it from?
It's a general fund. It's a general fund.
Would we replace that money then once,
Yes, we could. We could pay ourselves back. We could do an internal loan, and George has done that for me before, set up an amortization thing for 5 years and do an internal loan, and that would be my suggestion, reinvest back.
So then would that mean that we would be bonding?
We'd borrow from ourselves. Sorry, Mayor.
but please go ahead, Sherry.
No, we'd be borrowing from ourselves. That's what we had planned to do with the 400,000, was to pay ourselves back
Initially?
initially.
Okay. And I feel that this road needs to be open. I don't think that we can close it, especially if there's emergency vehicles that need to approach from the highway. So I feel that this is something that we probably need to do, but I'm concerned that we are tapping into the investment accounts or account, especially when we go later on in our discussion regarding finance, and we may be in a position at the end of the year to have to do more of that. So is this a wise choice?
I guess I need to know what you're talking about more at the end of the year.
Well, so if the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, the way that it's tracking.
We've never
No.
taken out of our investments. In the 20 years I've been here, we have not touched our investments. So our investments are our investments. And I will let you know when we do something like that, we will have an amortization sheet. We'll get council approval to do that. What it'll be an internal loan from the general fund for the Iron Trail. That's been budgeted. So any part of the levy or the LGA, that portion has been budgeted for the Iron Trail,
Right, and I
out of the general fund.
I understand that, but if they don't hit the numbers and we end up being another $500,000 short, where will we be getting those dollars?
We budgeted $985,000.
And the
help
way we're
subsidize.
tracking with the 985 right now, we would have to be, if the way that they're tracking now, negative, we would be putting in another $500,000.
Right now, we just reviewed them last night. They're what, $600,000 in the deficit.
In
We
month 5.
budgeted 985. I would start sounding the alarm maybe when it gets closer to that 985. That we're hoping to have more revenue in, so. But so far, we just cannot, me and Britt cannot legally tap investments without council approval.
No, and I understand that. I'm just trying to say, in order for me to feel comfortable going into investments for this project, I need to understand at the end of the year, if we have to put money in for any of our funds, where would that come from?
There's several avenues that it would come from, depending on where our major expense is. If it's OPEB, we have 3.5 million sitting in OPEB right now.
Right, yeah, I just
we
read through
could
your
tap that
statements.
because right now it costs the city $1 million out of the general fund to make the retirees insurance OPEB liability.
Okay,
So-
thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. So the concern is obviously that if we're going to take out of investments that for the short term, that we have to reinvest that, and that will come through toward the end of the year when we talk about our levy. We want to repay that into our investment portfolio without, with taking out and not reinvesting it money back is not something we want to do and we're willing to do, I don't think. So there are only two alternatives, is to do that and then, adjust it based on the levy at the end of the year, whatever needs to be done to pay that money back that we take out of an investment, out of the general fund investment. If not, we can't have that road can't stay open. The liability there is too significant. And it's unfortunate that the state of Minnesota is not ready and prepared to work with their project with respect to this. So we have to do something. It's on city property. So one of two things, we have to negate or diminish or completely eradicate any potential liability and insurance claims as a result of that area over there, because it's worse and worse and worse. And so it's either spend the money and find a way, Sherry, of course, make sure that if we're going to vote for this, to make sure that we have a mechanism in place to return that money at the end of the year. So, or in the next budget year, to make sure that those investments stay. Seeing as we haven't not pulled our investments in over 20 years. And so I'm not really want to be supportive of pulling any money out of investments. So the only alternative is to find the money, whatever the recommendation is, taking it out of investment whenever it needs to be done, have a mechanism in place to replace that as soon as possible, or just temporarily close that road down, reroute traffic down the old dirt road behind ICO station in order for people to get to and from the golf course from that northern portion of it. So those are our only two alternatives at this point in time. Councilor Beyondich.
Just one more question. Who is doing the work for the state on that culvert?
Contractor out of Duluth, Northland Constructors.
And they were approached, they don't want to take it
They must have
on.
just been too busy.
Thank you. Okay.
Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, isn't the purpose of the investments for projects like this, if we absolutely need to, we're only talking $130,000 roughly. And it's important to remember that the city was paying $1 million a year for the miners and getting nothing back at all. So we're already ahead of the game when it comes to what's going on at a building that is bringing a ton of revenue and bodies into our city and the Quad City area for numerous events. I think for myself, I can't keep not developing the rest of the town because of that building. It's all going to even out. When we had the forecast, we knew it wouldn't break even for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and that was at bare minimums. Bare minimums of weddings, bare minimums of events, and we've already exceeded those bare minimums of events and weddings at that building. And what I'm willing to do is I would even amend my motion to include the financial portion of it up to $200,000 of investments for whatever reason. That gives us time. That means it doesn't slow down if something should come up. And I think that we just need to get this one done for the purposes of safety, and that building is part of our economic plan. It's part of tourism. It's part of a lot of stuff that off from the highway. That is where business can come from. The rest of us in town don't go that way. I'm sure we all come up, 9th Avenue and turn onto 18th Street North. So I would amend my motion and include up to $200,000 from investments to be paid back with consultation from the appropriate people. Thank you.
That is an amended motion by Councilor Johnson. Does the second support that amendment to the motion? The second is approved on the amendment to the motion. So it has been moved and supported to award approved resolution to award the bid for the 18th Street North Culvert to Utility Systems in the amount of $128,357. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I get clarification, because we're being asked to vote on the resolution for a specific amount?
Yeah, well, we can do a separate motion to approve up to $200,000. The motion on the floor was to accept the bid, but there was an amendment to that motion by the motion maker, which is Councilor Johnson, to move that up to $200,000. So up to $200,000. So Brian, there's a motion on the floor with the resolution says $128,357 to Councilor Paulson's question. Councilor Johnson made the motion to amend that to to $200,000 with support by Councilor Motley. Does a separate motion to be made, or is this appropriate to make that adjustment based upon what the resolution says?
So, in essence, what we had a motion to approve the resolution. Then we had an intervening motion to amend. And so I think we can act on the motion to amend. That would cause a change in the underlying resolution, and then you would call a vote on the original question.
And then the resolution will be adjusted as appropriate.
Yep, if the amendment changed to 200, it would, if the amending motion passed, then the original motion would be to approve up to 200.
So we can act on this one motion?
Yep. Technically, it's a motion and then an intervening motion to amend the motion.
We can do that, and that's all in one.
Correct.
Thank you. Does that clarify for you, Councilor Paulson?
It clarifies, but the issue I have is there is a specific stated amount from Utility Systems of America for $128,357.50. So we're exceeding that amount, and there's no other work to be done on that. And that's what the resolution is in the packet to vote
Sure,
on.
certainly, absolutely. Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
All right, I'll make it easy. I rescind all my other, I move that we accept you know what, I will move that we authorize the city staff to take out $200,000 out of investments in order to pay for the potential of this project. I'm sorry, Mayor, what's your question?
No, I'm just going to ask,
But the way you looked was
Oh, no, I was just looking
not
for,
cool.
I didn't understand, so I'm just looking for some advice, that's all. We're okay with that?
So Mayor, so this is slightly, the way that I'm hearing it, and Counselor, please correct me if I misunderstood it. So what we've got is we've got an original motion on the floor to approve the work to be done by Utility Systems. And then we have a secondary action that the council would like to take to authorize the city staff to access up to $200,000 in loans. That would be more properly done by two. So I understand we've got a motion presently pending on the floor for approval of the work. We should resolve that motion and then follow with the secondary motion to access the funds.
And my thought was that if we're not going to take money out, then there's no reason to approve the work. So that's why I wanted to make the motion to authorize the taking out first. Because if we make a motion, in my mind, to approve the work and then we can't pay for it, what's the purpose of doing a motion to do the work? So that's why how I'm thinking about it.
Okay, let's have a repeat of the motion. Would you repeat the motion, and then we'll ask for some clarification there, and if a secondary motion be made, we can certainly do that. Please read back the motion, Pam.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, supported by Councilor Motley, to approve the resolution to award the bid to USA for the 18th Street North Culvert in the amount of $128,357.50. That was the original motion.
So do we vote on the original motion and then make a motion to amend?
Yep. So I understand Councilor Johnson has good logic in the ordering of the motions, but we have a motion that's currently on the floor and supported, so that motion needs to be resolved before another can come before the body.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, it has been moved and supported to award the resolution to award the bid for the 18th Street North Culvert project to Utility Systems in the amount of $128,357. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Councilor Freely.
Well, we haven't talked about any alternatives, only slightly. Like, for example, in my opinion, a vast majority of people that utilize the golf course locally are well aware of the peril of that intersection to their cars. I drove over it the other day, crept over it, did not do any damage. So could we not put up signage that warns drivers that this is a perilous intersection that you need to slow way down on so that you don't damage your car? Or could we detour, like we talked about, the driving range road? That is an option, to detour traffic so that they don't have to go over that. I mean, if we're in this much, mindset to like save money, or where are we going to draw the funds from? What other options are there where we can like delay this potential project without having to wring our hands over how we're going to do it? If we don't know how we can do this without drawing from monies that we normally don't draw from, then what other options are there that are practical applications to remedy the problem? I don't know. I mean, it's drivable. I know that. My wife and I crept over it the other day, and I even said, wow, this is bad. This is really bad. But we didn't scrape the bottom of the car because we went slow enough to do so. So it's possible for everybody to do so if they're warned as such. So anyhow, I'm just throwing that out there, that there are other options that we can consider, because I don't know how imminent it is. Maybe it is the people that would be whipping off the highway and going to the golf course, not paying attention, put up signs to let them know, you got to slow way down on this intersection to get to the golf course. And then when time is, appropriate for us to find the monies necessary, then we'd fix it. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. We're wringing our hands on how we're going to do this, where we're going to get the money from. Truth is, everybody's coming and going from there anyhow, and they're going to continue to, whether we fix it or not. So put up signs to warn people or redirect the traffic so that nobody hurts their car. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I concur that the locals, people would be aware of that, but it's the North Lakes, it's the seniors, it's all these tournaments that are coming into the golf course and then going up to the restaurant who are completely unaware of that situation. Creates a problem. Like the other day when the tourists from I don't know what state it was pulled in to go golf, and they apparently do that. They golf and then they go fishing. Well, the boat trailer jammed into the thing. So I mean, they don't know. So if you put signage up, whether they're going to be able to make that over there based upon what they're hauling, I don't know. So, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree to put signage up and wait until we have funds available for the project, so I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Well, as we move forward to do a vote on this motion, and if it passes, it passes. If it fails, it fails. And then we have to find an alternative way in which to accommodate the traffic, because the liability is too significant for us to allow people to utilize that highway. So we'd have to have some kind of a detour plan. We'd have to have staff work on that. So thank you. There is a motion on the floor to approve or the bid once again to utility systems as part of our resolution in the amount of $128,357. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Friedlieb?
No.
Paulson?
No.
Yondich?
No.
Johnson?
Yes.
Aaronzelli?
Yes.
Coffey?
Yes.
Motley?
Yes.
Motion passes. Does it?
4-3.
No, spending money. So motion fails. Thank you. Motion fails. So any other motions or any other alternatives moving forward to try to remediate this issue? Councilor Friedlieb?
I would make a motion to direct city staff to look at ways to create signage to warn drivers of the peril of that intersection and or seek a detour to avoid that peril.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Friedlieb. Did you get that motion, Pam? Motion on the floor. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Further discussion, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lindsay, what becomes our liability if we're aware of a something like that significant and we sign it? Does that detract from our liability of an unkept street?
Mayor, if I may.
Please, Mr. Lindsay.
This is kind of an interesting question. There's two schools of thought on this. The first would be, obviously, if we're aware of the condition, we should sign it just to give notice to folks that it's an open and obvious hazard, essentially. The second school of thought would be, by signing it, we're acknowledging our knowledge of it, but obviously by this conversation, we're aware of that knowledge. So by placing signs there to protect the public, it would probably be the better route from a liability standpoint. And basically what you do is you would point to the condition, you would point that it's a dangerous or it has the capacity to cause some damage. And then as each individual driver or person approaches it to an extent becomes an open and obvious hazard.
Thank you. And then I have a question for you, Matt. Is there any patching or any semi-permanent that can be done out there by city staff to alleviate some of the danger?
I was actually, sorry, Mayor.
Now, please, Matt.
As I was standing, listening to the discussion, that kind of thing was going through my mind. What else could we do if this doesn't pass? What are some things that we could at least do? And I'm gonna go out and take a look at it on my way back to the office, because maybe there's a way we could do something to what you had suggested, Councilor Johnson, about just getting some blacktop and at least bridging it a little bit. It's gonna still be a bump there, but at least it won't be such an abrupt bump. Maybe we can spread it out a little bit or something. At least it's gonna be hopefully temporary. But yeah, those things are starting to go through my mind as this was all transpiring. So I'll take a look and see what I can come up with.
Thank you. And then would that fall under this current motion?
It would.
Okay, thank you.
Taking alternative ways, yes, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Councilor Johnson? Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. Next item, please.
Okay, the next item is the review and discuss the proposed streets for the mill and overlay in 2025.
Matt?
Okay, in your packet, there's a map. We met a few weeks back as the Street and Alley Committee to talk about doing a possible mill and overlay project. Well, there's two parts to this. So the overall mill and overlay project in 2025, so this would be for next summer. We'd plan it now, budget for it, do it next summer. And then also the streets around the school, which are in pretty rough shape now after all the construction's done. Those are shown in blue, number 1, 2, and 3 on the map. And those streets we are currently in discussions with Kraus Anderson and the school district as to how we might be able to proceed with some contribution from the school. And we haven't gotten to a resolution there yet, but we're working on that. I just had some communication follow-up with Pete Avenen from Kraus Anderson yesterday about that. So we should expect some correspondence soon. Beyond that, on this map, the red and the green, based on direction from the Street and Alley Committee, Jim Rosfit went out and explored some streets that he thought would be good candidates for mill and overlay based on utility conditions, plans for future reconstructs, things like that. And this was the list that he had come up with. Him and I sat down and looked at this, and these are the lists that he had come up with. And so what we've labeled them as is the green. He said, boy, those are we really need to look at those. And then the red are certainly, they could be done, but maybe depending on costs, that wouldn't get done in 2025. We haven't put any cost to this yet because we wanted to run it through the council and make sure this was a good list that you concurred, or you didn't have any other streets that you felt should get on the list. So we will run costs as a next step once we have the list. But the purpose today was to just bring this to you, have a discussion, show you what we thought, and then if you guys had any feedback to give us, we'd be happy to hear it. So,
Thank you, Matt. I just have one clarification. So the ongoing discussions with the Kraus Anderson and Rockridge 2909 and the city with respect to these significantly eroded streets around the North Style Elementary School, which is 2nd Street South, 6th Avenue, and 4th Street. And as a result of the construction, the widening of that footprint narrowed both those streets, both 2nd Street North and 4th Street, 2nd Street South and 4th Street South, to the point where it's only one-way traffic authorized for that. So if we were able to come to an agreement and move forward with some collaboration and some shared cost associated with that, would that be done this year?
yes, so those segments that you just referred to, the hope is that something would get done. And keep in mind, those streets are also on the plan for a full reconstruct down the road. So obviously they're not in any kind of good drivable condition right now. And to be clear, it's only the block between 3rd and 2nd of 6th Avenue. The block between 4th and 3rd is still in pretty decent shape. So we wouldn't mess with that right now. That'll be part of a reconstruct down the road. But we would try to do something this year sort of like what we did down by Super One on 17th Street, just to bide some time so that we can get a drivable surface, and then in the next, well, let's say 5 years, these streets are also slated for a full reconstruct with the utilities and everything. So that's a long answer to your question, but yes, the intent would be to have those done this year.
Second Street and
2nd Street, 4th Street, and that one block of 6th Avenue.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I know there are, we in Street and Alley, as Councilor Freely is chair, and myself and Councilor Motley that sits on the Street and Alley, we made some suggestions based upon, the recommendations of staff and the conditions of beneath. And there are a lot more streets that also need a mill overlay, but these are the ones that are considered to be based upon our expertise, or those who we have working for us that make those determinations as to what's underneath there. We'd like to do all of them, but this is a list I think which needs the most attention. So that being said, looking for council input and action, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, I have a question regarding the top priority ones, the ones in green. Well, I guess all of them. What is the average cost per block approximately that you could maybe give us your magic 8-ball on?
Well, let's see, how many, those costs change so much, it's hard to, it depends on the width of the street, it depends on the length of, different things, how many manholes are in there that they gotta work around. But last year's project, just to kind of put it in perspective, was around, I wanna say 300,000, if I remember right.
Per block?
No, 300,000 was the total, and we did probably did 8 blocks last year, so I mean, I guess kind of do the math on that, you could say 10 blocks, $30,000.
Okay, so the whole legend that you have in here for all of the priorities, green, blue, and red, are all mill and overlay, not total reconstruct, right?
Yeah, these are mill and overlay, and they are not in the, I'll even say 10-year plan to do a full reconstruct on.
So, and then do you consider it one street if it's 2 blocks, or is it one street, 1 block? And I'm sorry.
No, so say for the Railroad Avenue or First Avenue, number 9 and number 10, we've got them listed out as 2 different ones. But everything else, like number 11 way at the top, that would be, it's 2 blocks worth.
So it's 2 blocks. Okay, yeah. So, and then last year, those projects that you're quoting, was that about the same kind of spatial that you did, 2 blocks?
Last year's was smaller than this.
A little smaller, okay.
Yeah, so I don't expect we're gonna end up doing all of these, but this is a place to start.
The reason I'm asking and getting specific is I believe we still have that $3 million allocated from, did we use that from Congressman or Stauber's office?
We do have it committed to, it's got to be used for infrastructure. And so that's the alley
So it
project.
cannot be used for mill and overlay. Okay. And, okay, so I was just thinking, how could we offset that? So based on that, then once we get kind of costs, if everyone feels that this is a great map, once we start getting the costs together, will there be assessments then to the homeowners?
It doesn't have to be. We didn't the last time. We could. We haven't, but we could.
Okay, so those are just some of the questions that I had, but I think the map looks great. And then just if we could get follow-up from the school and Kraus Anderson as to that section, that would be great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Thank you. Would you read back the motion, please, Pam? We don't have one. There you go. We don't have one. We're looking for additional discussion, additional information. This is the list that's provided by our staff through our SCH, our engineer of record, and these are the suggested routes for us to take a look at. We're not approving any costs associated with that. We're just approving the list, and we could technically add on to that before these costs come before the council. So looking for any additional information, questions, comments from the council, or actions to proceed.
I will move the map and direct staff to continue working on costs.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson moves. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Welcome.
Okay.
you, Matt. Item number 2 on the agenda is review and approve the request from Revive Virginia and W.A. Fisher to hold a business after hours event in the 100 block of Chestnut Street on June 26th with a road closure from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The item number 3 is approve the resolution to accept the gift of real property, which is property ID 580-0010-04850 for the promotion of recreational activities. And this is a parcel of land that lies immediately adjacent to our rifle club on the north side of the highway.
Where is it? I'm sorry.
Next to the rifle club. The rifle range?
Oh, the rifle range.
Yep, north.
Oh, north on Highway 53.
Yes.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support?
I'll support.
By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
I'm just curious, how did this come to be? I'm just nosy.
Dave Dinko and the other gentleman that came with the ATV trail, the snowmobile trail.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes, thank you. Runs right through this property. And so they were speaking to the property owner, the private property owner, and talking about our plans, how the city was going to work with them on a trailhead and just immediately south of there. And he said, I don't know that I need the property for anything, and you guys want to maintain the trail there, why don't you guys just take the property? And so they mentioned to them that they were going to be leasing that area from us, so it'd be better to go to the city. So once we obtain this, I'm pretty sure that part of that lease is going to include this also. So
Okay. I'll have to make sure to thank them in person the next time I
Yeah.
see them. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Motley. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
In your packet, we have the final draft of the lease for the golf course restaurant with Krachowski Inc., doing business as the Copper Nickel.
I will move the lease.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the lease. Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
I was just wondering, the last time we talked about this, I had requested a damage deposit. I was just wondering why that's not in this, or if I missed it.
Mr. Lindsay?
So we did prepare a version or a draft of the lease and sent it along to the tenants that included a damage deposit. And basically the response was that at this point, given where they were in the capital expenditure that they had made to bring on staff and equipment and things, that they would not be agreeable to paying a safety or a security deposit. So basically, we included it, we prepared the draft, and the tenant balked at that clause.
And I'm not saying that this leasing might be an issue, but judging by the history in my short time on this council, that terrifies me, that we aren't having any type of security or damage deposit. And it's nothing against these current leases. I'm very happy they're here, and I hear very good things about them, but it's concerning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. It has been moved and supported to approve the draft of the lease agreement with Copper Nickel. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5 is I had been asked to prepare a request for proposals for cleaning services for the city buildings, and in your packet, you will find that RFP. And as you all are aware, we did receive an email from AFSCME that was received regarding these actions.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, we're just gathering information. Is that what I'm understanding? And no action is being taken regarding one way or the other. We're just trying to get some quotations. Okay, and according to the union or the contract language with the union contract, since we're not necessarily executing anything, we're just getting quotes or requests for quotes. Is that okay within the confines of the language of the contract?
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the council always has the ability to collect information. So long as there's no action taken, the terms of the collective bargaining agreement really aren't implicated because we're not making any changes. We're simply collecting information.
Yeah, and I think it was just a gathering information for a cost-benefit analysis is all it is, right? So, I mean, we're not taking any action with respect to the contract. We're just, like to say, gathering information for what the cost-benefit would be and based upon the contract. And if we have information, then we move forward from there one way or the other. So this is just a review, the request for proposals for cleaning services. Are you asking us to take action, Britt, to seek these proposals?
That's what the council so chooses.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Council? Councilor Freely?
Would these proposals be moot then if we are in violation of the CBA and the interpretation of the contract?
Brian?
So I think out of fairness, I think what we may want to do is just include some language in the request that indicate the city is exploring the potential, and if you'd like to submit a proposal, please do. And then if the council would then have the ability, once the information is collected, to address it, and if in further conversations there's found to be some violation or concern related to the collective bargaining agreement, the council could simply just reject proposals or just place them on file.
And just based on the current conversation we're having, then would it require acquiescence of the union to allow us to do so? Or are we pursuing this because we believe we have the right to do so based on our interpretation of the language of the CBA?
Mr. Lindsay?
So as far as collecting the information, we don't need any permission to collect the information. That's part of a council's role, is to collect information and evaluate the needs and policies of the city.
What do we have, Pam? Looking for action. Councilor Motley?
I do think it would be, I don't know if I say the word irresponsible, but I think it is going to be interesting if a motion is made and passed to see what this might look like financially, since, as we all know, the city's financially strapped. So I will make the motion to approve the request for proposals for the cleaning services.
Okay, Councilor Motley makes a motion to direct city staff to seek proposals for cleaning services for all city buildings. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask that we amend the motion to include the verbiage of for purposes of discussion with the union according to the collective bargaining agreement.
I'm sorry, Councilor Johnson, I missed that.
I'd like to amend the motion to include specifically for the purposes of having discussion with the collective bargaining unit.
Are you willing to approve that amendment?
Sure.
Okay. And the second?
I think we were just told by legal that we have the right to do this.
We do, but Councilor Johnson is asking for amendment to the motion. Mr. Lindsay?
Yep, and just maybe as a point of clarification, am I understanding the amendment appropriately, that the amendment would indicate that the information is being collected to further the discussion with the union?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm amenable to that.
And regardless, any bargaining unit, no matter who it is, would be provided that information that we glean from our investigation. So absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So it has been moved and supported with the amendment. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item number 6, is the request for proposals for the operation of a concession service at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Well, the motion on the floor is as written in the resolution. That's the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, roll call, please, Pam.
Paulson,
Aye.
Beyondich, Johnson.
No.
Baranzelli, Huffy,
Aye.
Motley,
Yes.
Friedlieb.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 7 is review the proposed EMS Fire Rescue Department standby policy. We have Deputy Chief Jonason with us.
Chief Jonason, this is with respect to the collection of some fee regarding our standby, and please, welcome.
Good morning. Yeah, this is following up on the motion request made by Councilor Johnson to put a policy in place so it's fair and equitable across the board. So attached is that draft policy made with help by City Administrator Britt C. Bennis, and also attached are drafts of the EMS standby and the fire rescue standby billings.
And I've seen these policies as similar in nature in other departments as they move forward, both in rural and metropolitan areas. So thanks for putting this together. Is there any questions or comments from the council or council action with respect to reviewing the proposed EMS standby policy? And we can take action to move this to the council if we choose to do so for final action. Councilor Motley.
Are you happy with how this looks?
I am.
Okay.
It's not going to make money for our department, but it'll help
Okay.
offset costs of doing the EMS standby, which is predominantly what we're requesting for. Fire rescue standby are very few and far between. To my knowledge, we have not done a fire or rescue standby in my 20 years. So,
Okay.
but I thought I would include it because if I didn't, I know I would have a request for it. So,
Yeah, I heard so. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and this would be, it would help with your other contracts with the federal government with, if you're asked to come to a standby status for emergency or fire for the forestry department, something, you already have a mechanism in place there, an agreement for reimbursement for that regard, but the standby policy just helps solidify that for other entities that you don't have an agreement with.
correct.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I think it's important that we have documentation of how we're going to move forward with this, and I appreciate the time you put into it. I will move the policy to the council meeting for further approval.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson moves to approve the policy as requested to the City Council for final approval. Is there support? By Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And then right behind that, item number 8 is approve the resolution for the EMS fire rescue billing rates. That goes with this policy.
Very good.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 9 is review the financial reports for May 2024.
Questions, comments from the council? Any clarification request? I know there's an ongoing meeting on Mondays to look for some clarification, but does any councilor have any other information that'd like to disseminate any questions or comments? Councilor Beyondich.
We did meet yesterday at 3:15, and I realized when I asked to have this done that other people have schedules. So what I'm asking the council is the interested parties, if there is a better time to meet that we could do this. I enjoyed it. I had questions. It helps me to understand a little bit more on the finances. So I just want to ask the other council members if there is a better time for them if they are not able to make this time.
First, Councillor Motley, then over to Councillor Paulson. Councillor Motley.
So like I literally work like every single day of my life. So I appreciate that you throwing that out there, Councillor Beyondich. Always early morning or in the evening is what's best for me because I'm working. So if you guys would be up to something early versus later, I'd be game, or either one, but during the day is pretty tough. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Paulson.
I had a further comment, another thing, but.
Is it on a different matter?
Early mornings, early morning, good for me as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beyondich.
Thank you. So how early is staff here? What would work for those interested parties?
Well, our normal hours are 8 to 4:30. So if you want to go earlier than that, we certainly can set that.
Well, I'm up at 4, so it depends on what time everybody else is up.
Well, I don't think we should have a special time outside of the regularly scheduled hours of our staff. So sometime between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. I have the luxury of being able to check in any time because I'm here every day for 4 or 5 hours a day. So I don't have that issue. But you who work and have an issue with that would be appropriate time. But I would want to meet earlier, have our staff come in earlier, stay late as a result of this. So that's my personal perspective. Councillor Paulson. No? Okay. Councillor Beyondich.
The staff is motioning to me that they have a time in mind. So 7? Rich, you're at 7?
7 o'clock? Okay.
7 o'clock?
Okay.
On the Monday before this committee of the whole meeting. Will you send out notices to the council in case? I'm not sure. I just showed up yesterday at 3:15 and we did meet, so thank you.
You don't need a motion, do you, about that, or would you like a motion on that, Britt, because it's outside of the normal business hours?
Yeah, why don't you make a motion? That'd be wonderful.
Okay, very good. Looking for a motion.
I will make a motion to meet at 7 a.m. on the Monday before the second committee of the whole meeting of the month.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Councillor Beyondich. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
By Councillor Motley for discussion. Further discussion, Councillor Motley.
Thank you, Councillor Beyondich, and thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it because it is tough with my working schedule. And yours.
Strong coffee.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding the financial reports before we move on to the next item on the agenda? Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Under ambulance, account 319, which is other professional services, that seems to be a little high. We're getting close to our budget number. We're at 70%. Was that for something specific? I don't know if it had to do with a public safety.
Maybe Assistant Chief Jonas can answer that question for you, Councillor Paulson. Assistant Chief Jonason.
On the ambulance side of the budget, other professional services is primarily our third-party billing company. And we can only estimate going into the fiscal year what it's going to cost. The more calls that they process, the more they charge. So that's why that number is creeping up, because our call volume has been higher than last year so far to date. So
when we, thank you for that. That helps me understand. So when we do the contract, it's a per call basis that they
get a
charge
percentage. Yep.
a percentage.
They do it on a monthly basis. So the number of calls or number of EMS runs that they process for that month, I believe it's a 2% fee of all the.
And then when you guys project so in 2023, you probably look at that year to project for 2024. Is that how you kind of do that?
Similar. Sherry can expound a little more on that than I can.
Okay. I guess that's where I'm getting at. And do we need to adjust that number for 2025 budget discussion?
Most likely it will be adjusted. I don't see it going down.
No, we've, over the last 15 years, have been trending higher and higher every single year. We haven't gone backwards in call volume.
Are all the third-party billing companies, do they all do it that way on a per-call basis? Or a contract, like, is there a different style or type of contract that could be?
Of the three that
Put
I'm
into?
familiar with, EMSMC, which we're currently using, ECP, which is a company based out of Wisconsin, they're percentage-based. And then I believe Hometown and Hibbing, I believe they're flat rate, but don't quote me on that.
So it pretty much all across the board is based on the call volume.
Yep, it's kind of an incentive for them. The more they collect for us, the more they're able to receive. So I know prior to switching to Transmedic, which became EMSMC, our company at the time would process the bill once, and if they collected money, they did. If they didn't, so they got paid regardless of if they collected on that bill or not. Whereas the other two companies, the more they collect for us, the more they're able to receive on their end as well. So.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you,
you're welcome.
Sherry. And then Mayor, on under the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, if we look at the revenue side, and I don't know if the page numbers are different or the same, because we got a new, like, I think that was just the agenda. So let me see if I can get you guys up. Page number 86. We look on the revenue side, we're at month 5, and Sherry, that would be, what percentage did you email us? 42% of the year? Is it 42% of the year? So anything above and beyond 42, or underneath that, I guess on the revenue side, we should be looking at. Okay, so when I look at account, and it's the fitness center passes, ending in 730, we have a budget projection of 30,000. We, year to date, have sold $6,615,000 in passes, and we still have $23,384 in sales to make for fitness center passes. So we are only at 22.05% of the projected revenue budget for fitness center passes. And I'm wondering if, I guess, what we can do to help, maybe, I mean, if that, I'm worried, I'm concerned about that revenue not coming in. Sherry?
Mayor? He's not here. I'm sorry.
Jerry?
Okay, do you want Counselor Johnson?
Mayor, I can tell you that that's a direct result that we don't do automatic billing for the generation, for the fitness passes. Every month, the person has to go in and renew their fitness pass or their family pass or whatever, and I can tell you that last October, I went in and bought a skating pass for my family and have not renewed it. The revenue generation from fitness centers across the world is based on January fitness. Yes, I'm going to go in every day and I'm going to go in and I'm going to exercise, and we do not do the automatic billing. If we did automatic billing, my guess is that we would be over the projected revenue, but it's because people have to go in and out every month. So if they skip a month or 2 months or 3 months, we're not generating any revenue in that at all. And that's why I know that's why that's down. I've had that discussion with the staff at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilor Paulson.
Okay. I was told, and I wish Brian was here, our Park and Rec Director, but we've had several conversations, and they did do, when you put your credit card on file, it's an automatic withdrawal unless you choose to cancel it yourself. The only time that you need to go physically in the building is if you're paying by cash or check. Otherwise, it rolls itself over until you cancel that. Is that not happening, Brett?
I probably could, I mean, I had a fitness thing for my family when they moved up here, and it was automatic billing out of my checking account.
Right, and that's what we were told from our
Until- until
Park
I-
and Rec director, that it is an automatic, and the reason they would like the credit card, number one, is less staff time processing cash or check payments, when we had the whole cash conversation. Number two is that they would already know their revenue capture, annual revenue capture. And last year, we did 40,000, actual last year was $40,924,000. This year, we're at $6,615, month 5. And so when I started the discussion regarding where we're going to get the money for some of the street allocation, and Sherry, when you go and you look at the bottom line and you divide that $600,000 that were negative, I have more that I can go, that's over. But when you go to the, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling. If you take $626,000, that's a bad storm. 687, and you divide that by 5 months, that's an average of $125,000 negative per month. So if we're tracking the way that we're currently tracking, you would times that by 12 months, and that's $1.5 million that we would be subsidizing the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. And from that, we have allocated in a transfer in $985,000. That still leaves a gap if this current tracking continues of negative $519,000. And I'm wondering how we're going to, where that money is going to come from if we end up over the $985,000 transfer in allocation from the general fund to the, is this a special revenue fund or a special revenue fund? For the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, and I think that's a valid concern.
Sherry?
Well, as you know, on the agenda, you voted on point 5 and 6. So we are well aware of having to take a good look at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center and reduce our costs.
So point 5 and point 6 was,
Yes, under buildings and grounds, under your agenda.
what am I missing?
The RFPs that are on
Oh,
our
yeah,
agenda
to look at cost-saving measures.
That will be part
Right.
of-
But my point is, if this building is tracking this way, where is the city going to get $500,000 to continue
We
the
will have to
subsidy?
reduce expenditures before we get to that point.
Well, we're now in
We
month,
can't live off investments. We can't live off our savings.
right, so now
Because
we're
if you
in,
have this problem this year, you're going to have it next year.
and that's the catch-22, I think that reason we're having some of these difficult conversations. But if we're now in month 6, middle of month 6. So is month 6 going to reflect the same?
Probably not. We have already moved some employees to the park. So we may see a reduction in that area.
But if they're not doing the actual revenue, if they're not hitting the target projected revenue numbers, that's going to impact even if we have moved employees. Is that not correct?
To some degree, yes. I still say your outgo is more than your income. So you have to
Quite a bit
reduce
more.
what you can in your outgo.
So then when I look at the sponsorships, account number is 235. Last year, our actual number was $247,558. Our budget this year to hit, our target projected budget was $310,000. We are only at $102,000 for that, which we are at 33.03% as of month 5. I am again concerned. I had filled out I really wish Brian was here, but when we approved the glass, what do you call that? The advertising on the glass, that evening that we approved that, I had filled out an application for my own business and told our Park and Rec director to have someone stop by my business and pick up a check. And to this date, no one has done that. And I don't know if there is any advertising currently on the glass, but I am concerned that that is not being promoted. And I just want to know, I want to check in on what that is. The other number, and I don't mean to pick on them, but I mean, this is the meat and potatoes of where we're going to be at the end of the year. And it really is. So I guess that's all I have for now, but there was one other. With our special event expenses and then our special event revenue, I still don't know that all of that has been captured in there with some of the concert things that took place, so I'd like to make sure that that's correct in there. Other than that, Mayor, I could go on, but I won't. I'll stop right here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. It's about revenue and expenditures. We don't have as much revenue as we should, and our expenditures are too high. And that's the bottom line. And as we're moving forward with our dilemma with our Tremors Event Center, Councilor Beyondich.
And yesterday, when we talked about this a little bit, I did ask where do the numbers come from, and for the projected number that we need to hit, and that comes from Sherry.
Our department head, Brian Silver, and I assume he gets input from Jim Hunt, and so we collaborated together last year about this time, looked at stuff. This is how every department should have a good feeling of how they're being run, and I get input from the department heads. I don't just come up with these numbers on my own. And also too, the city administrator has input in it too.
So these are numbers that we're trying to reach to meet this budget, so that if the numbers are too high, are they adjusted for the next year?
Yes, I mean, this is, you can't have a Pollyanna pie in the sky budget.
Right, and I think that's what we discussed yesterday, is the numbers are so large and we're not even close to reaching some of them. So those are good discussions to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. We have cut staff at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center almost a lot. We've already talked about who we've moved out. The staff in the office are doing their best to do what they need to do. We have tasked staff with multiple layers of fundraising or sponsorships or any number of things. I'd like to remind that when the billing person is on vacation, there's probably not another person to do the billing. When the marketing person is out, there is not another marketing person to do stuff. We have made that decision at this level that there's one person that does stuff. So when they go out for any reason, they're not doing it. I'm a little concerned that we would expect a city staff to come to one of our individual places of residence or business to collect something. I would not expect a staff to go anywhere to collect payment. I would hope that they would send it in the mail or drop it off at City Hall. I don't think that is a proper request from any counselor to any member of the city staff. I also want to talk about budgeting. A budget is a living document. If the budget is not working, then we should be adjusting it and talking about it and saying, why isn't it working? Do we need to cut the expenses? Do we need to increase the expenses here and change them somewhere else? That's how a budget works. When I ran my business, every year I had to present a budget to my board. And every month, we would look at what was going on. And if there was a decrease in preschoolers, we would need to decrease the expenses and the revenue in the preschool room. During the summer, and we do accrual accounting here, correct, Sherry? We do accrual accounting. So when I did my budget for the daycare, I knew that throughout the school year, my school-age room would only generate, I'll just pick some numbers, would only generate $1,000 a month because we had 20 kids after school for an hour. But I also knew that when we got to summer, we would have 60 kids for 8 hours a day. So my July budget for my school-age room and my January budget for my school-age room were completely different. And I don't see us breaking things out like that in our budget right now because it's not practical with multi-million dollars. So there's also some stuff to be thinking about when it comes to how it looks when we get to ice time, how it looks when we come to weddings, how it looks when we're doing other events, and how that income is coming in and coming out. So just because we're 50% through the year doesn't mean that we're necessarily created 50% of our budget. It's the same thing for plowing. It's the same thing for sanding. We have a zero plowing budget for the summer, unless it hailstorms like it did last week and we need to plow some streets. So I think it's more complicated than just the numbers on the page. It's more complicated than what our amazing staff did to try to guess at what was happening. It's a guess. Nobody knows. Everybody in this room was able to sit down and look at those numbers, and we went over them in fine detail. So it is our accountability, the 7 of us sitting here, and our job to accept responsibility for this budget. We should not be calling out the department heads for not doing it right. And that's what I feel is happening. I feel that everybody in this room is working together to create those budgets. And if in the next budget cycle, we need to do monthly budget predictions so that we can actually compare apples to apples and not apples to potatoes, then we need to do that. We have really gotten to the point where we're just blaming. That's what I feel every time I come to a meeting and we start talking about money, is we're blaming. They're not doing this, somebody's not doing that. Well, they said this, no, we did it. The 7 of us sitting here approved this budget. 6 of us. No, 7 of us. Liz, you were here, right? I can't remember. Yes, the 7 of us, sorry. So we need to take that responsibility. I understand how the budget works, and I'm comfortable with it. When I have questions, I go see Sherry, I go see Brian, I go see Britt, I go see whoever, and I ask them very specifically, what's this, where's this, how's this come, why is this happening? And they're able to tell me directly because I asked them. And then I re-ask those questions here so that everybody can have the same answer and not have to wait until the next meeting or the next council meeting or to get an email later. So that's where I am. That's why I don't say a whole lot about the budget, because it's a living, breathing document. And we're working on it. It's being worked on every day. None of the staff in this room, none of the staff in the city want to see programs cut. They don't want to see jobs cut. They don't want to see benefits cut. They're working their hardest to make the city go forward and do what it needs to do. And so I want to say thank you to the staff that have worked on this and continue to work on this. And I will continue to come ask and seek information from you and then present it as I see necessary at meetings. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. We have 2 other councilors waiting in the wings, so I just make one comment. For me, it's about, you can cut your expenses only so much before the product that you have becomes ineffective. And we're looking at the expense side of it, which we have been, looking at innovative ways, which we have been, to accommodate our agreements the way we need to. But it's all about establishing the revenue side too. We don't have enough revenue coming into the Ontario Memorial Events Center. I'm not saying that our marketing director isn't working hard to try to get that done, but we haven't been effective enough to get enough revenue to help offset some of the costs of the expenditures with, so I think that's the revenue side is we have to continue to work on, and we have to find as a group innovative ways to establish revenue, whether it's adjusting the rental fees, whether it's finding a secondary market in which to bring other people in, like the Rife Center does and others, moving. So more events, more revenue is important to help us maintain a balance and offset the costs associated with any deficits that we haven't incurred. Expenses is one side, but the revenue is the other. And so we need to work harder to establish a revenue stream as a group. So we'll go back to Councillor Paulson for redress, and then we'll go over to Councillor Beyondich. Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess I just want to kind of circle back around. Rephrasing, my expectation, I guess, wasn't someone was going to come to my business, but just that someone would reach out to me and confirm that they received my application and we could have done a credit card over the phone or whatever. So, and it's not personal to me. This is about business, and how you generate advertising is to visit businesses. I had a position, I took a sabbatical from what I do, and part of my position was marketing. And I would visit all of the businesses to get sponsorships in our area for some of the large events that Virginia Regional Medical Center had, the VRMC Foundation. That is the expectation of when you are in a sales and marketing job, that you go and solicit, no matter if it's a door visit or a phone call or what have you. And then just currently to my business, I get Timber J, Hometown Focus, insurance companies, credit card companies. I have door visits or phone calls for sure monthly from many, many entities. The indoor advertising, the TV that Closed Circuit runs, they visit me, they come, they get my credit card information. It's a personal visit, and I'm committed then for a 1-year contract. So this isn't personal, and I'm sorry, Councillor Johnson, if it came across that it was a personal issue for me. It's not, and I don't have a personal expectation. It's more of a business thing. And when I look at the budget is black and white. It's not about staff or the good job staff does. It's really not about that. It's not, I'm removing my person from it, and I'm looking at numbers, and I'm concerned about how we are going to continue to subsidize this entity when the revenue is not lining up, kind of like the mayor suggested. We have to do a better job, and I'm not saying staff, but we have to help figure out what we can do to help make this building succeed. And that's where my heart is. I want to make this building succeed, and that's why I wanted to put my application in to be a part of the advertisement from such a great idea. So to me, it's not personal, it's just business. And the numbers are, we have to analyze these numbers. Yes, we approve the budget. And I mean, I remember last year, Sherry and I commented many, many times that ballroom rental was way too high at $500,000. Many, many, many times. Now we've got boardroom rental. That was the other, I mean, I could get into the weeds. Boardroom rental is the other thing that's pretty upside down in terms of budget, projected budget to current revenue. So I find it interesting that we can say we can go one-on-one and talk to our city staff. Yes, we have the ability to go one-on-one, but if each one of us, 6 people or 7 people, went and talked 1 hour one-on-one to each of our staff members every week, that takes a lot of staff time to actually go over one-on-one. Also, a lot of us work during the days that we don't have the ability to actually sit down and have a one-on-one conversation. Part of the other responsibility that we have to our constituents is to have these discussions in the public so the public understands and it's transparent. I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations, and when I have the time, I do go and see Sherry and Britt. But if all 7 of us went, say each week or every 2 weeks that we have a committee of the whole or a That would be quite a lot of staff time and hours out of our staff time just to speak with us one-on-one individually. So I appreciate a kind of a finance update at the end of the month, that we can have these discussions, but I do think that this is our time to sit down and have the discussion so the public does understand. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the purpose of the committee of the whole, to do that. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. I'm just jotting things down as the conversation is going. And I will circle back to last month. When we talk about going in and talking one-on-one, I went in last month before the committee of the whole, 3 hours on the Monday afternoon and another hour before our committee of the whole meeting, just to understand and get a feel for what is going on. And I think you're right. If we each do that, that's a lot of time. And that's why I'm trying to get a meeting that either, if you can't attend, if you can bring the questions forward, because we do kind of get into a lot of different things when we talk about finance and from the budget. And that is my main point of asking for a finance committee meeting once a month to go over these. And it's fine that I go in there, but you may have different questions. You may have something different. And that's the importance of having a meeting before this meeting. We can still bring everything. We're not voting on anything. We are getting the questions answered. And having time, I mean, yesterday when I left, Sherry said, if you have any more questions, come to me before the meeting. We can talk about it and we can bring it out. And that's the importance, I think, for me, to have a meeting so we can dig into this. And I also asked Pam to rearrange our agenda a little bit, because by the time we get to this portion of our meeting, we're tired, we're checked out, we're not interested. I asked her to put it first, after appearances, on our agenda from now on, so we can ask the questions. Hopefully, if you have questions on finances, to reach out to Britt or Sherry, so when we do that 7 o'clock meeting, we can get those answered, and we can understand it before we bring it out to the public, and we're not getting into the angst of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Okay, are there any other questions, concerns, comments regarding the finance reports for May 2024? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, Britt.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 10. This is the change order number 3 that we received for the Public Safety Center, house demolition, and also site prep. It is actually a reduction of $692,892.10.
Move to approve by Councilor Freely, been supported by?
Happily supported.
Happy to support by Councilor Beyondich. Further discussion, just for clarification purposes, Councilor Motley.
Yeah, just for clarification purposes, Sherry, I know we had talked, or one of you, I don't know, about where does the 692, 890, or where does the reduction go when we save this money?
The overall budget?
I apologize, it was the mayor I talked to about.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Britt?
Back into the overall budget, which in the end would be the FF&E, their fixtures, furnishings, and equipment that we would need if we don't use it on something else. But
thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. So it has been happily moved and supported for the reduction of $692,892.10. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
item number 11 is approve the one-day transient merchant license for Marie Rabas, doing business as Sugarlicious and More LLC.
So just 1 day?
1 day.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Before we move, could we get a clarification from Pam?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, that's for Thursday, June 20th, up at Essentia. They're having a little food merchants outside.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Motley.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Motley. Is there support by Councilor Beyondich? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Britt?
There's no further items on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. No further items on the committee of the whole agenda today. We have a lot of work to do moving forward with respect to some of the finance issues. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remind everybody, the Human Rights Commission is helping put on, or supporting, they're not helping put on, but they're supporting the Juneteenth event tomorrow on the 500 block of Chestnut Street. There will be folks from VEMA, from the Lyric, from the Human Rights Commission, from Iron Range Pride, and numerous other local agencies helping to support diversity and being a welcoming community. So I would invite everybody to come out. I'm pretty sure that if it's raining, we'll figure out how to put people inside the Lyric between our two little spaces we have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Johnson. No other items to come before the committee of the whole meeting today. We'll stand adjourned. The time is 10:25 a.m. Thank you. Stand adjourned.